Welcome to Relish Books. Today I'm going to be starting a three-part series talking about the Bronte novels and ranking them in order of least to greatest. And so I'm going to be starting with Anne Bronte, the youngest sister, who also died very young and as a consequence only has two novels that are not very well known, partly because her second novel was not republished. Charlotte Bronte prevented its republication after her death. I don't know if her reasons for that are known or not, but she's not very well known, and but I also think that the books themselves are partly a reason for that. For instance, Emily only wrote one book, and it's a very well-known classic. So, her debut novel was Agnes Grey, and it's largely autobiographical. It's about this young woman whose family falls on hard times, and she goes out to be a governess to these wealthy families who treat her very badly and are very inconsiderate of her, and just it's kind of this different classes type of thing, but also just her experiences and eventually romance. But I think this book I put at the bottom out of all the Bronte novels because there's nothing memorable about it. There's nothing very dramatic about it. It's very plain and simple, and there's nothing wrong with a plain and simple book, but you have to make it interesting. Or there's nothing wrong with a plain and simple story, a plain and simple life, but you need to write about it in a way that's interesting. And the heroine isn't very interesting. The hero isn't very interesting either. And the romance is quite very kind of cold and just straightforward. I thought when I read it some years ago now, I thought that it was quite a sweet romance in the end. I did like it, but again, it's a very, very quiet, almost gentle book, especially compared to the drama of the other sisters, and I honestly don't even know if this book would be remembered at all if it wasn't for the Bronte name, because there's really nothing special about it. And so that's Agnes Grey, again, which I did enjoy, and I think it could be worth reading if you're trying to read all the Bronte novels. I don't think it's terrible. I just think that it's nothing remarkable or special. So moving on to her second novel, which I actually, growing up, we had, my family had all of the Bronte novels except this one. And so I didn't know that it existed until a few years ago when I came across it. And I was very excited to read it because it's a Bronte novel I didn't know about. And I do think that as far as drama and romance, it's a better novel than Agnes Grey, which is why I am ranking it above Agnes Grey, even though I probably enjoyed it less. So The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is about a woman who is considered a, for its time period, it's considered a very feminist novel because it's about this woman who runs away from her horrible husband and ends up having a romance while still being married to him. But it's not just that. It's kind of the idea that, she largely runs away because of their young son, and the idea that she had to hide from him and everything because in that time there were no real rights for women in that circumstance. If her husband had found her, he could have just taken their child, and she wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. So that's kind of what it's remembered for. Something interesting about this book that's different from all the other Bronte novels is that it is written from the perspective of a man. It's from the hero's perspective rather than the heroine, although there's a large chunk in the book where she's telling him her story and then it's from her point of view. But it's man's perspective, and it's really disappointing because the Brontes are known for their heroes, and he is the weakest of them all. He's this farmer who his father has died, I believe, and he is now the head of the household. He's running the farm and supporting his mother and sister and younger brother. And they kind of spoil him, they spoil him, take care of him, but at the same time also kind of try to control his life. They think that he needs to live a certain way. They don't realize they're being controlling. They just, they want what's best for him. And so there's kind of that he deals with, this supporting them, but also feeling controlled by them a little bit. And then this mysterious woman moves into their small town with her little son, and he meets her and falls in love with her, of course, or is attracted to her. But the problem with this character is that he's not believable in the first place, that he's this farmer who has all this responsibility, because he feels so immature in so many ways. It feels like he spends most of the book just sulking because he can't be with her because she snubs him and rebuffs him. And so he's this hero who feels just like he's pouting all the time. And for that reason, he's just very unlikable. He also doesn't come off as a very good person or a very strong person, because nobody knows that she is married, and she's keeping it secret because she doesn't want her husband to find her. So she's being rude to him and rebuffing him because she knows that they can't be together. He doesn't know that because she doesn't tell him till much later. But I almost feel like his conduct in places is on the point of being ungentlemanly, because she clearly doesn't want him around, and he keeps coming back, almost like against her wishes and like forcing himself on her a little bit. And even though you know that this needs to happen for like dramatic effect and for the plot line and everything, reading it, you're like, I felt like, just leave her alone. She wants you to leave her alone. Just respect that, And yeah, he just comes off sulky and immature and annoying. She's a little better. She has some, she's a strong woman, but like at first you don't know her story, and so she comes off very rude, very uppity, because this is what she's portraying to people, because she wants them to leave her alone. She doesn't want anybody to find her, find out who she really is. She's using a false name. And so neither character is really likable, and I think it was a mistake for the story to be from his perspective if he's going to be such a kind of a lame hero. And then it's also a little different in the way that the ending comes about. It just feels like a very typical novel. There's nothing unique about it, really, in the ending and the build up to that. You don't feel very deeply for the characters. It was definitely, like I said, as far as drama, definitely a step up from Agnes Grey, because there was some real tension and real development that there wasn't in Agnes, but still not a great novel. I really wish that Anne had lived longer. She died at 29, because I do think that she was improving and she could have probably produced much better works later on if she hadn't died so young. But that's my ranking and summary for Anne, and I will talk about Emily in my next video.